Well, it's not unusual for Andy and me to not know how to turn a machine on. So thank you very much, John, and I think also I welcome and thank the faculty, the administrative team, all the coordinators and Sherpas, and the families of our graduates. And please join me in this address to the graduates. It's not much of an address, you know, Andy and I don't address. We kind of argue through it. And so we wanted it to be friendly for you. So we decided that since the Graduate Institute focuses all of its learning through the interactions of cohort and through the performance of dialogue and gathering the art of dialogue, that we would have a dialogue. And the purpose of our dialogue is quite simple. We're here to honor you and to acknowledge the very difficult trials that you've been through and the joys that you've had doing the work. We know that you have pushed the rock up the hill, occasionally fell back and gave you a headache. Mostly you helped each other stop it from falling back. And you came together as a team of learners, a community of learners, in the authentic sense of how the entire culture, our culture, learns. Would that our entire political system would work this way. We implore them to do so. Now, we've provided a small supplement to your program. And in it, we have asked a few questions. The first question we've asked, and Andy and I are going to speak to this question. The first question we asked is how you did it. How did you do what you've done? And you have one view, and we have another. So standing aside from what you've done, and asking you to remember what you've done in the trenches of learning, we're going to tell you how we see it. So, Andy, join me in this dialogue.
Thank you, Bud, for the invitation. I think the first point is that the programs at the Graduate Institute are really grounded in the process of knowing. And knowing is a verb. Most institutions are really about knowledge, and knowledge is a noun. It's a person, place, or thing. And so at other institutions, you attend and they present information that is consumed as knowledge. But here, you all engaged in the process of knowing. An action verb. You engaged in critical thinking and extrapolation and synthesis and reflection, and you created your personal meaning. So that's one path.
And on that path, Andy, I know you joined me in expressing how we see you on that path as a highly dynamic, internalization learning environment. You yourselves are the learning environment. And we know that that learning environment that you've experienced will carry forward in your lives as another way of being. I've also seen, going on to the next point, Andy, that you created exciting, generative, and unexpected outcomes for yourself. I can't tell you how often I've seen people, especially in their culminating project, and many, many of you, fear the task at the beginning and are overwhelmed by your own success at the end. It's a beautiful thing. Have you seen that?
Yes, indeed, I've seen that. I've just spent the last 6 weeks paging through the culminating project, and I must admit, I was very impressed, and hopefully the comments that were provided as feedback to those projects really provide the impetus for when you all proceed on to your terminal degree.
I must tell Andy, that all of the faculty are indebted to you for this, and we're not indebted enough to owe you money, but we're really quite thrilled that you, as the external examiner, have looked at every single graduate's culminating project report and given it your stamp of approval. So you can all be appreciative of Andy, because if he hadn't done that, you wouldn't be sitting here.
The thing that impresses me most about the experience at TGI and what each graduate understands as being how TGI is grounded is the notion that colleagues are empowered to pursue their own learning within the processes of their own learning idiosyncrasies. We all learn differently. Learning, the process of learning, is not a linear process. It has peaks and valleys. And we all experience those.
That's a really interesting point, because if you went around each cohort and you asked them what the program was about, individually and separately, you would get descriptions from 10 people. You would get 20 different descriptions of what the program was about. Evidence that each of you took to heart the notion of do it yourself, and your culminating projects, as well as your folios, which you struggled so hard to complete, illuminates that point.
And I think you all will agree with Bud, myself, the faculty, and your Sherpas, when you do not have to sit for an exam, particularly a multiple choice exam. You know, we in this nation have adopted the multiple choice as the national standard. It was created in 1914 when to use that as the national measure, but not here. And you all, I'm sure, appreciate that fact.
I would like to say to everyone except the graduating class, parents and friends, I don't have to say this to the faculty, then rather than sitting for exams, these people sit and argue with us. And we love it. So thank you. Well, another way we see you all is that you develop new language around which you restructured your thinking. In the health and healing program, people come with very specific views of what it is that they want. They have very specific language. The same is true in all of the programs. And yet, as time goes on, they broaden the view of what they want. They get everything they want, and they want more. So I ask you to continue being greedy. Greedy is a good thing in this regard, of restructuring yourself and your life by restructuring your language. What would you say?
I couldn't agree more, because our reality is only based in language. So it is critical that when we do speak, we choose our words carefully, and we mean what we say, and we say what we mean. very difficult task for many of us to wrestle with on a daily basis.
So that's our comment on how you did it and how you will continue to do it. And we have another observation in the form of a question, which contains your personal responses, how you responded to the challenges that were forward. We were both introduced today as administrative personnel of the Institute, vice president, something called a chancellor. That's me, except I've never found out what the verb chancelling means. I don't think there is such a verb. But we're here today in a little different capacity, because for the first time in a long time, both of us are active now as program coordinators, Sherpas as we call them. And so we can see how you respond individually to the challenges that come forth. The first way I'd like to describe it, Andy, is that almost every one of you took some challenge, a particular challenge, and you took it way, way further than it was intended. It wouldn't be nice to tell stories about any one specific graduate, but I can tell you of someone without name who rather reluctantly took on the development of an autoethnography. And once into it, he could not stop writing. He could not stop discovering himself.
And the notion of inquiry is not only critical, has not only been critical to your success here at the Graduate Institute, but it is critical to every endeavor that you participate in, to every challenge. And so we firsthand have the opportunity as Sherpas to look at how you inquire into the challenges within the academic realm. But you all are now practiced in the art of inquiry into all domains, personal as well as professional.
And the way you got that way has something to do with your reading and discussion of the literature. And through that reading, through your interactive community, you became grounded in a different culture than that which you came from. You saw with a different light shining on your observations. And you skipped across reading in the most intellectual way. We know that because we see you doing it. We know you don't read everything. We know you read across the lines, between the lines, and you skip some paragraphs. And that's exactly what you should do. That's exactly how you make learning a private and individualized kind of activity. So it's the transdisciplinary approach that you have extended because you always had some of it. And this framework allowed you to extend it more. And of course, when you leave here today and as you continue your life, because this is actually called a commencement year. Commencement means to begin. So this is not really the beginning of your life. It's the ongoing process of your life. And so we hope that you will continue exploring transdisciplinary learning in community, and arguing with everyone. I think we can count on that.
I think you're absolutely right. And remember, comprehension is a lower order thinking skill on the taxonomy of learning. What you all have engaged in for the last 2 years is extrapolation, synthesis, integration, and evaluation. Those are critical thinking skills that you were called upon to exercise in the programs, and now will be called upon to exercise for the rest of your life as lifelong learners.
So as you all know, and your family probably will hear about this later, as you all know, both Andy and I can talk for 3 or 4 days. You see that we have notes here, and we're going to share them with you. I'm going to show them to you. Not much written on the page, but just enough to have a page, a blank page to fill in the way we have a blank page every morning when we awaken, and we begin to fill it in, hopefully without the same pattern as yesterday, hopefully with a new inquiry today. And what we really celebrate here today is you. We celebrate who you are as citizens of the community at large, as central to the body politic, as generators of a new culture. And we applaud the tenacity with which you have performed, especially since no one had a clear view of the destination. You frankly didn't know where you were going. And I hear a little giggle there because it's so painful. What's more is that we appreciate the humility that you exhibited as insights became more powerful and you became more humane. And we look at the burgeoning potential that each of you now enjoy in your awareness and in your goal to be all that you can be. So Andy and I join the rest of us here in applauding you.